Hey everyone, and welcome to the Far Cry Chronicles, a deep dive podcast where we explore the entire Far Cry series, from the jungle of the original game to the vibrant chaos of the latest installments. I'm Adam.
And I'm Lila. We're huge fans of the series and super excited to talk all things Far Cry. The gameplay, the stories, the iconic villains, and of course, the unforgettable worlds. So buckle up.
Absolutely. Today, we're kicking things off with the origins, the very first Far Cry, released back in 2004, and then moving on to Far Cry 2, which took things in a pretty different direction. So, Lila, what's your first memory of Far Cry 1?
Oh, it's nostalgia city for me. Far Cry 1 was groundbreaking at the time. I mean, it was one of the earliest first-person shooters to offer a truly open environment where you could explore an island with a huge amount of freedom. Back then, that was pretty revolutionary. The game was developed by Crytek, and the graphics were jaw-dropping for 2004.
Right. Crytek's CryEngine really showed off what PC gaming could do at the time. The game's main story puts you in the shoes of Jack Carver, a former Special Forces operative stranded on a mysterious tropical island. It was classic survival meets shooter, with some sci-fi elements thrown in.
Yeah, the story was straightforward but effective. Jack's mission was to escape the island, uncovering a secret military experiment along the way involving mutated soldiers. The game combined jungle stealth, long-range sniper fights, and all-out gun battles. The enemy AI was decent, and you could approach missions in multiple ways: stealth, direct combat, or even driving around in jeeps and boats.
Exactly. And I think what made Far Cry 1 special was its open-ended gameplay. Unlike many shooters of that era, which were very linear, Far Cry gave players lots of freedom to decide how to tackle objectives. The huge maps were also impressive: lush jungles, rocky cliffs, dense forests.
The multiplayer also had a cult following, with modes like Deathmatch and Capture the Flag. Even today, the original Far Cry feels like a classic. But of course, the franchise really hit its stride with Far Cry 2.
Definitely. Far Cry 2 came out in 2008 and was developed by Ubisoft Montreal. It was a bold shift from the tropical island fantasy to a war-torn African setting. The atmosphere was gritty, realistic, and immersive. The game pushed for a more grounded approach to gameplay and story.
One of the biggest changes in Far Cry 2 was the introduction of the open-world sandbox design. The game featured a massive, seamless map based on African savannas and deserts. Players could traverse it on foot, in vehicles, or even use fast travel points. The day-night cycle and dynamic weather added to the realism.
And the gameplay was tougher, too. There was a focus on survival. Weapons could jam, your character could get malaria, and fire could spread across the grasslands dynamically. You had to manage resources carefully, and combat felt more tactical.
The story was less thematic, but more about player choice and emergent storytelling. You played as a mercenary sent to kill an arms dealer known as the Jackal, but the world was full of factions fighting for control. It was a complex political landscape.
Far Cry 2 is famous, or infamous, for its difficulty and some frustrating mechanics, like the weapon jamming and the lack of fast travel at times. But it was undeniably ambitious. The map design, the NPC interactions, the faction system, all of it laid groundwork for future open-world games.
Also, the game's soundtrack was amazing, with that haunting theme Sons of the Father by Harry Gregson Williams really setting the mood. The storytelling was subtler than the original, relying more on environmental cues and player-driven narrative.
Yeah, it really emphasized player agency in a war zone where things could go sideways at any moment. I remember one firefight where I got caught in a wildfire. Trying to escape the flames while enemies closed in was intense.
Exactly. Far Cry 2 was a love-it-or-hate-it game for many fans, but it pushed boundaries. It wasn't about heroism as much as it was about survival in a hostile world.
So, to wrap up our intro segment, Far Cry 1 was the breakthrough, showcasing what open-ended FPS gameplay could look like. And Far Cry 2 took that concept and grounded it in a harsh, realistic setting with deep systemic gameplay.
And from here, the series evolved even more. In our next episode, we'll dive into Far Cry 3, the game that really put Far Cry on the mainstream map with its vibrant island, memorable villain Voss Montenegro, and a gripping narrative.
Looking forward to that. But before we go, Lila, what's your overall take on these first two games?
They're both essential in their own ways. Far Cry 1 is a landmark in FPS history, and Far Cry 2 showed Ubisoft was willing to take risks to innovate.
They set the stage for everything that came after. Couldn't agree more. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Far Cry Chronicles. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time as we explore the madness of Far Cry 3.
See you then.